Welcome everyone to the show tonight. Take just a minute here while we get set up, get everything ready, get going. Hope everybody's doing great tonight. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Tonight we have a special guest with us, Preston from the Scribby Evil TikTok channel. He has a lot of great content over there. Go there and check it out. Some of the paranormal uh, videos over there are simply amazing. Just amazing to see. You'll be just amazing. Just amazing. A lot of great videos. While we get everything set up here, I can invite some people on. So let me invite Connor. So his number's up here. Create a chat group, I guess. I don't know if anybody's seen the news lately, what's going on over there. I seen this report a while ago where they had sent Kamala Harris over there to negotiate a peace treaty. I don't know how well that's going to go over. Someone said they asked her how she had come up with a two-state solution for Palestinian and for Palestine and for Israel. They asked her how it was going to work, and she said she didn't know. No one told her anything about it yet. So, so if you're in charge of negotiations and you don't know how it goes, get our sweet vice president over there to do it. The nonsense going on in this world is just beyond me. And once again, go over there. If I can find the chat box. I can't find the chat box again. It's supposed to be here, but I don't see it nowhere. See, where is that chat box? Automatic chapters, no. Let's see. I still can't see it. Can't see any comments. Allow for embedding. Oh. We've lost our comments again. Oh well. So we've lost our comments again. Don't know why, but we keep losing them. Let's see if this goes through. Send another invite. Tonight we're joined by our special guest, Preston, from the Scribby Evil TikTok channel. You with us there, Preston?
How's it going?
Hey, it's going all right, man?
Yeah, doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing terrific. I was sitting looking over some of your TikTok videos. Are those stuff that you've collected or stuff that you've reposted? You have quite a fabulous stash there.
A lot of it kind of just came from like me scrolling through TikTok, and then I just kind of looked at it and basically trying to spread the word, I guess you could say.
Yeah. There's a lot of unanswered questions out there. I have a lot myself. A lot of very, weird things have happened in my life, and it's nice to get to think about it and try to figure out what the heck this is all about. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
So when did your experience with the paranormal start?
So I would probably say I was 6 years old. My great grandmother, her brother had committed. I don't know how to phrase it nowadays, but he basically unalived himself, I guess, about 15 years before I was born. He had come home. He was in Vietnam, and I guess PTSD stuff like that kind of just got to him, and he sadly took his own life in my grandmother's living room, or my great grandmother's living room at the time. And I was 6 years old. For the first time, I noticed something had walked across my great grandmother's living room, and it terrified me. Because you're 6 years old, don't necessarily know what's going on. And then I saw a man. He sat down on the couch, and you heard a loud boom. And I literally ran into my great grandmother's bedroom, like, Grandma, someone did. Like, I was terrified. So that kind of continued on for at least we'll say till I was at least 12. And there was quite a few times actually, to where like he would sit down, he'd ask me about my day, how school was, and stuff like that. So it was a very more intelligent spirit to me, I guess you could say.
So, okay, let's just clarify this for the audience. Uh, there was some connection there with your grandma's, so it'd been your great uncle that came back from Vietnam and had a tragic experience that had caused him to. This is very common. It's in my family. I won't share the story because it didn't end the exact same way. The guy was preserved, thankfully, and we won't say no more than that. Uh, but yeah, that was very common. They did some very troubling things over there. They've seen some very troubling things that was hard for them to ever come back home to and deal with. And when they got back home, some of those things had beat them back home that they had to do, but people didn't really understand why they had to do the things that they had to do. And it was very hard for those soldiers. That's a terrible sacrifice he made in both ways. Uh, but he apparently had some kind of kindred towards you, correct? He took to you, even though he was gone. Wouldn't you say? Because he was asking you how your day was and stuff like that. That seems like he was interested in you. He found. Are you still there? Did I lose you? Are, are you there, Preston?
Yeah,
I thought I lost you there for a minute, Preston.
yeah, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Technology.
Yeah. So so it seems like he was your great uncle had a connection with you, even though from beyond, basically.
Yeah. My great grandmother for years had said that she noticed like he would be around kind of like watching her. But from what I understand, he never actually spoke to anybody. And everybody in my family was kind of impressed like he was talking to me. Like it scared me.
Oh, I'm sure. From the time you was 6 years old up until the time you were what 12, you said. Okay.
12, almost 13.
Wow. Yeah. But when you came in from, you said when you came in from school, he asked you how your day was. Did he ask specific things like he knowed what was happening to you at school? Was you going through anything troubling at school that might have drawn him to you for protection or any other thing?
No, not particularly. And it would mainly be like at night. So like it would bedtime, stuff like that. And that's when he would come and he would sit down and he would talk to me and how'd your day go? How was school? Did you have any fun? What did you learn? And then 10, 15 minutes later, after a conversation, he'd be like, all right, well, I got to go. And then he would pull out his weapon of choice, I guess you could say, and the bang would come, and that would be it.
And it ended the same way every time.
Pretty much, yeah. There was like no real like, oh, I want you to like, like some people like I've heard, like I've had some buddies over the years that have had paranormal experiences and stuff like that, where they're like, oh, well, this thing wanted me to follow them. None of that ever.
I lost you again, Preston.
Can you hear me?
I lost you again. I hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, there was never any like leading along or anything, if that makes sense. So like, I have quite a few friends that have experienced a lot of paranormal stuff. And for example, like they would tell them like, oh, well, this thing wanted me to go this way or wanted me to go that way. Check this out. Check that out. Like I never had that. He would just sit down and he'd talk to me and send the end of it,
Yeah. That's very interesting. So, have you had has any other spirits in the family been drawn to you or any outside the family, say, like if you ever felt the presence of spirits, say, like you go someplace that's supposedly haunted or anything like that?
I have. I know my great grandmother, a lot of people in my family had had said that she was kind of clairvoyant. And there's been multiple times, I'll see things that most people don't see, and I'll hear things that most people won't hear. There's been multiple times, for example, I'll be in bed or something, and I used to live, another one of my houses that I used to live in was really, really haunted, and I would wake up in the middle of the night, and there would just be people standing there watching me and my brother sleep, and it was something different, and it really took me a long time to kind of come to terms this is actually happening. I'm not going crazy.
Right, because it will make you question reality when paranormal events take a place. It makes you question yourself. It makes you question your sanity. Uh, it makes you question, hey, am I really seeing this, or is this all in my head?
Yeah.
It really does. I've been there. I've been there.
Yeah, there's where I grew up at. There was a little road, because I grew up in a little town called Trenton, Ohio. I don't know if you've ever heard of Trenton. It's right in between Cincinnati and Columbus.
Very familiar with Trenton, Ohio.
Yeah, there was a road down there called Weir Road, and they had a big thing back in the early 1900s of a guy who kind of went crazy. They dubbed him the Hatchet Man. I actually have a video on my YouTube of what kind of how I explained it, of everything that happened. But I think that was my first holy crap, I'm scared. Yeah. I don't know what to do, because it was I think personally it was a demonic figure, personally. And so do my other buddies that were with me that night. And for years on years, almost 15 years, each one of us, we kept in contact. We would, something's going on in my house. As soon as something happened, one of us would get a phone call. And so my one buddy who went with us had a kid, and he had come upstairs, and we're pretty sure it's the same thing we saw on that road. It was lifting his child up out of its crib at 3 months old.
Yeah, okay, now this is you're walking down this road. Are you seeing this inside a house, or I'm trying to paint a picture, or are you seeing this coming out of the fog, or it's right there in the road? Describe to us what you're seeing.
So the way that it kind of happened is, we were teenagers. We decided, hey, let's go down this scary road everybody's terrified of. Being a teenager. So we started walking, and they had built a slaughterhouse on the road, and it had some barns and stuff. And we started walking down it, and as we're walking past these barns, you just hear a metal scraping on metal sound, which was one of the, I guess, characteristics from the so-called Hatchet Man of Weir Road.
Right.
So we brushed it off the first time because there was some cows out in the field, and we're like,
it's just a cow. Maybe. Yeah. I was just playing with you. Yeah, it's just a cow. Nothing to worry about. Let's go, folks. Yeah.
Really, it was kind of, no big deal. And we got to the road too. There was this weird dog that came up to us. It had to have been, I think it was a German Shepherd. He walked with us the whole time. We got to a second barn, and it's again you just hear the metal scraping on metal. I'm like, all right, something's going on, but again, it's got to be the cows.
Right.
Got to the third barn, kept going, and we stopped in the middle of the third barn, and the sound stopped.
So it was tracing your all steps, if I get that right? It's tracing you all down the road, and then stopped the third time. It was going along with you, then just stopped. Correct?
Yeah. Yeah, quite literally. So we kind of looked at each other, went stop, all right, let's turn around and let's get out of here. So we took off. We got to the end of the road. Keep in mind, we hadn't even gone a mile and a half down this road. We get to the end of the road, and something all of a sudden we get to the end of the road, we just stop. Something imagine a nation wall was right there.
Right.
Couldn't go any. We turned around, and to this day, it's probably like literally the scariest thing. And there's a reason for like from the research that I've done that makes me believe like this was a pure 100% demon. When we turned around, like this thing was floating off its feet, so you couldn't see its feet, but it had like long, like really long grayish hair, so like it kind of would look like an older person, but it had no eyes.
Ooh.
Its eyes were in a way sunken in its head, and then like I don't know, like the skin, because you could see like part of the skin, and it was like a baby food pea green, like you get in the old school Gerber jars.
Yeah.
Like that's what it looked like, and then all of a sudden it dropped on its hands and just started chasing at us, and then finally we come to our senses and ran. But like that's probably the most scariest paranormal experience that I've ever occurred, and to this day, like my other two friends can tell you the same. Like none of us have actually fully recovered from that.
Yeah, it's something that would. How did y'all get away?
Well, luckily, so like when its hands and started coming towards us, me and my one buddy, we took off. We got like our bearings back and we took off. My other buddy didn't. And I heard I heard two pairs of footsteps. So I heard mine and another one. I was like, there's a set of footsteps in this wall. I turned around and my other buddy was just like kind of dead stop looking at this thing. So I had to run down. I grabbed him, said, Zach, because that was his name. It's like, Zach, let's go. We got to go. Finally, he kind of like snuck to and came back, and we took off and got to the top of the hill. That dog that I had mentioned that we ran into still followed us. And like there's a hill you go up, and then there's a hill that goes back down into town in Trenton. We got to the top of the hill. We started walking down. No cars, nothing. And then that turned into the dog just kind of looking back at us. And I swear to you, this dog smiled. And
Really?
then, again, keep in mind, no cars, just out of nowhere, this dog just gets hit by like at least a 1940s truck. And at that moment, we all just kind of took off. We literally ran for 45 minutes back to my mom's house. Like, we busted in the door, like, Mom, like, we're covered in blood. This dog got hit, and we tried to tell the whole story. My mom looked at us. She's like, you guys are not covered in blood. I'm like, what? Like, we just started, like, we swear to this day we were covered in blood. Like, you could feel it on your skin. Like, you know, like you get water on your skin and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you can just feel that water. Like, we felt blood all over us.
From the dog, when the dog got hit by the truck.
Yeah.
Well.
But my mom swore up and down there was no blood on us, no nothing on us. It wasn't raining, nothing like that. Like, and it's cool too because like in that town, like Weir Road was one of those towns that like I guess you could say like had its own aura to it. Like, you know, like every little small town has like either a haunted place or a great restaurant or a family friendly like station or whatever that you can go into. Like this place was like the most visited place at one point in Trenton, Ohio.
Yeah.
And
My dad's from Goshen.
That you can dig up there is insane.
My dad's from Goshen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know where Goshen is, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I don't remember like a full layout, but I know where it's at.
Yeah, it's like,
if I was in Ohio, I could get there.
It's like 5 minutes from Kings Island.
Yeah.
So you've heard of all the things that, you've heard of the things that's went on at King's Mill. Then, if you're from Trenton, you should. Yeah. What do you think about that? What do you make of that? Is that stuff true or just tales?
I don't know, honestly. Part of me wants it to be true. Part of me wants it to be tale.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, being my grandma still lives on the road that's just very close to there, very close. And as a little kid, I would be terrified hearing some of the tales about King's Mill, you know, just laying there on the couch, sleeping at my grandma's house, watching out the road, watching for people to walk up and down the road, just literally terrified as a child, because you're like, oh my God, here they come. They're going to get me. I had a family member claimed he walked in on something pretty bad down there. He went down there with his girlfriend or whatever, and one of my cousins, and he went down there with a girlfriend, and they was parking, and they got to hearing something, close by, and they went investigating and seen something they probably shouldn't have seen, and of course that, spread throughout the family, and that just kind of multiplied everything there, so, but very, very interesting tales around there. Some of my family still works in Trenton right today. Uh, I was there not very long ago. I was there very very recently, actually, within a couple of months ago. But but as young kids, when you get scared, you never really realize how fast you can run till you get something like that happen, and you can really run.
Back in those days, because I used to be really, really heavy. I was almost 300 pounds, and I don't think I've ever ran faster in my life.
Oh, I'm sure, man. Yeah. It's what. Have you ever seen the pictures of the Reiki or rake, or what do they call it, or a skinwalker? Because that when you painted that picture of that thing, that's what it reminded me of, was a skinwalker or a rake.
I don't know.
Long, skinny arms, palish green skin. Just
The way the problem is, like, I'm not 100% dead set on skinwalkers.
right.
Like, for me, I guess personally, like, there's not enough evidence out there to be 100% supportive of a skinwalker. Now, a djinn, I could more believe in a way, because, like, I've seen a lot of crazy footage. Like, my dad actually said he encountered a djinn when he was over in Iraq for Desert Storm 2.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, that's more believable. But, like, skinwalkers are kind of like one of those things that could be true, could be not. I don't know. It's just, same with a rake. Like, I don't know. I think personally that there's enough evidence out there to try to support them, but there's not enough solid evidence for me to be like, okay, hands down, like, these things are real.
Right. I'm looking up right now the guy who wrote a book about giants and stuff. He used to be on Art Bell a lot, and George Nuri, and he was on there with a guy named Tom, but I cannot think of his name right now. I'm trying to look it up and see if I can find a book with his name on it. He's wrote a whole lot of books. I corresponded with him about 10 years ago through email, and he said that he believed, according to biblical prophecy, and now jinn is not mentioned in Bible, but is mentioned a lot, I reckon, in the Quran or whatever. I don't know, and it's pretty predominant over there in the Middle East. But he believes that rise of the jinn and jinn sightings will be very predominant in end times. Uh, but I don't know. But he was the first person I ever heard mention uh, that jinn. He believed that jinn were real and were taking an active role in, like, world events. So. But say can you tell about your dad's experience with the jinn?
I can't. Like, he just said, like, really, all he really said was that I saw something.
Really?
It scared the living crap out of me. I mean, he didn't say that, but,
right.
PG, but.
Right. Yeah.
You know how military men are.
I have 2 soldiers.
And,
Actually, 3 soldiers. Yes. Yeah, I know exactly. Yeah. But
but he said what I saw, what everybody said to me was that it was a djinn, and he said I never anything like that again in my life.
he didn't tell you no details what he was doing or anything like that.
Nope. And that's the thing, because like when he was serving, he had a lot of clearance levels, but he could not talk about it.
Right. Right. Yeah,
So,
I understand that too.
He would get slipped here and there, like back then. Like if he had a little bit to drink, like he would say a little bit of stuff, and then it kind of kick out. I'm not allowed saying that. But like he would never really go into detail about anything he saw. I think the one thing that he did go into detail with me and my brother about was his visit to Area 51 right after the exchange to Hangar 18 and right that.
Oh, he was at Wright-Patterson Air Force?
He was at he went to Area 51 after they had relocated the alien carcass to right that.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear it's somewhere else now, but I mean, I don't know. It, whatever it is.
Yeah, he told us flat out. He's like, the things that I saw at right that or at Area 51 will, if it were to get out, it would change the world.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. My kids, they have some security clearances too. With their, one's in Air Force and one's in the Navy. And they're both they both guard, top secret stuff because they're military police or security forces, or whatever. So there's a lot of stuff that they can't talk about either. Not even with me, especially not with me, I guess. Especially not with me. But I hear that a lot too. I wish you could know what I know and just laugh. And some of it may just be them pulling my leg too, But you know how boys can be.
When I started doing because at first, when I started doing these type of videos and stuff for TikTok, it was mainly just the ghost stuff, right?
Right.
And I had, obviously there's too much, going on to say whether or not 98% of these conspiracy theories are true or not. But if you really deep dive into them, like I did, and that's kind of why I started doing some of the conspiracy stuff too. There's a lot of unexplained things, and the people that know will laugh at you. Like when I told my dad that I was going to do some conspiracy videos, he just looked at me and laughed, and he's like, "If you only knew." I'm like, "Well, tell me."
Right.
But that didn't happen.
Oh yeah, they won't ever tell you nothing. Yeah. Yep, I can understand that.
Yeah. I love it at the same time because, for me as a civilian, it kind of keeps me on a guessing track. Right? So, he already knows some of this stuff, and I'm just sitting here so what did he tell me that I can sit here and try to figure out and go down a rabbit hole and figure it out?
Right.
It can be good and bad. It just depends.
I've gotten into some. I don't know if I share a lot of conspiracy videos or not. I share a lot of everything. We connected over the Mandela effect video that you had shared, though. And what is your experience with that?
It's actually a funny one. When I first noticed, I guess you could say my first Mandela effect, I obviously wasn't alive for the whole original Nelson Mandela effect thing.
Right.
But my first one was that Tom Cruise movie where he slides in and he's singing the Bob Seger song.
Right, Risky Business, yeah.
Risky Business. So right on the tip of my tongue, I couldn't get it out. Apparently, he has a white shirt on and or a pink shirt on and not a white one.
Now or then?
Now.
Wow.
Yeah. So and he didn't wear sunglasses either. And I'm like, that man wore sunglasses because I used to do it as a kid. I'd slide in on my socks and shirt and sunglasses. Apparently, none of that actually ever happened.
Yeah, we did too. I did not know that was a Mandela effect, though. That's a brand new one for me. because he put on the shades, the Ray-Bans, or the 60s style sunglasses, and he was dancing in his underwear or whatever, and he slid through in his socks or whatever, and the button-up shirt. Yeah, I mean everybody, that was like the big thing back then. Every kid my age was doing it. We was sliding across the floor.
Kids like my age, I'm 33, but like, we grew up with that stuff from our parents. So like we were out there doing the same thing, most of us, at least I should say. But like the Mandela effect rabbit hole is so intense and so extreme. Like there was another one. Do you remember Shazam with Sinbad?
Yeah. Did you see the newest video on TikTok a while back?
Which one?
With the one with Sinbad discussing that.
I saw one that he said he never made that movie.
Okay. He's made another interview where he says, and I think I shared it on my channel, on my TikTok, but I'm pretty sure I did, where he says he did do it, and he was on crack and a bunch of drugs at that time, and the government used him to go around, paid him to deny it, and then paid him to help get back every single copy that they could get back. And they'd gotten back almost every copy. And I can't remember the name of his character was Shazam. But the name of the movie, yeah, he was the genie, but there was a different name for the movie, and I can't remember what it was. Kazam or Shazam or I don't know. But it came out.
I know they ended up doing another one with Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, it came out about the same time because if you'll notice, every doggone movie studio puts out the same movie. Okay, like okay, you'll notice like one will put out Tombstone, the other one puts out Wide Earp. You know what I'm saying? And there'll be opposing videos of the same thing.
It's like they buy the same script and just change little things here and there.
Right. Yeah, they change it up a lot. Yeah, and you got like one studio done like 2012, and the other one done Art Bell's book The Day After Tomorrow.
Yep.
I mean, it's the same story pretty much. Only one's ice, one's volcano and total destruction. And floods. But they do stuff like that. They'll produce similar movies at the same time to compete against one another.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And one is the same thing. Like I don't know if you watch like any professional wrestling or stuff, but like a lot of it happens that way too. So like for example, like you have WWE now and you have AEW. AEW's doing stuff from old school WCW and old WWE, and then WWE's going back and copying and doing it again. It's just like, all right, well, I get it. You got to have a business somewhere, but at what point do you draw the line and just create pure creativity?
Yeah, it's like, is there no new ideas out there? Is there nothing new under the sun?
Yeah. It's not only is it Hollywood, it's video games too. So like I play video games, like I play like Call of Duty. The last 3 games we've gotten from Call of Duty have all been remakes of the other games from like early 2000s. It's like, are we really running out of ideas to do anything with?
It's like they're regurgitating everything in every area. And there's got to be a reason for that. If you're a conspiracy theorist, I don't mean to interrupt you. If you're a conspiracy theorist, you probably see this, they promote the same thing over and over and over, and you wonder what the catch is because there's a catch somewhere if they keep pushing the same message.
Mind control.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So you think the thing
in line with the way I look at it is like you either fall in line with the sheep or you bury yourself underground and become a hermit and figure it all out. Not necessarily actually put yourself underground and become a hermit, but like do the research, put in the effort, put in the time. Like I have a whole script written that I was going to do for a YouTube video. about the atrocities of the Japanese Unit 741 from World War II.
Tell us about that. What's it about?
So the atrocities of Unit 742, 741 or 742, I don't remember, but basically, like, obviously we had the Holocaust with the German soldiers and the Jewish people. Well, the Japanese were basically doing the same thing with the Chinese. They were dropping weapons of mass destruction, basically the bubonic plague, in like small little cities in China and wiping out thousands of people at a time. And then they were capturing the ones that survived, and then they were experimenting on them, opening up like they're like it's one of those, like, if you actually look at it, it's almost worse than what actually happened in the concentration camps. To me, it's like we're right there on par with it, with how bad it was. But like, they had their big army general basically said, let's capture everybody we can. We're going to open up their bodies while they're alive. We're going to take their brains out while they're alive. We're going to take their eyeballs out while they're alive. And then we're going to try to make super soldiers, and we're going to fill these people with the plague, with any and every type of disease we can. It's just to like actually go into, like, it took me almost a year to write this script because of how graphic it is. So like, I'm trying to carefully choose my words here.
Yeah,
like,
I understand. I've never heard of that.
It's atrocious.
I've never heard of that. I read Pappy Boyington's book on the Flying Tigers, and I never heard nothing about what happened over there.
If I can, because there's a movie on it too. You can watch it on YouTube, actually. I lied to you. It's Unit 731.
Okay. Unit 731. Wow.
Yeah, Unit 731 movie. Men Behind the Sun. You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, I never heard of that at all. Yeah, Pappy Boynton, he talked about how
it's one of those, when you go and you look at it, like, obviously what happened with the Nazis in World War II was obviously atrocious, but the guy behind it all could have probably put Hitler out of business.
really,
with how deranged and insane these experiments and the human experiments that they did on people. And like I said, they dropped bubonic plague bombs on China, on Chinese nationalists and everything. And just like, it was some of the things that I've seen, just absolutely atrocious. Probably some of the scariest stuff, like real life stuff that I've ever read or even seen anything of.
Pappy Boynton talked about the way they done their bombing raids. You know, when he was in the Flying Tigers as a volunteer, well, I guess he was a paid mercenary is what he was. Not really a volunteer. He volunteered, but he's a paid mercenary. Before he came back and flew, commanded the Black Sheep Squadron. He talks about, he had a pure hatred for the Japanese people. I mean, he had a pure hatred for those guys. And, you wonder what's happened. You know, what's changed. The people that we hated and loathed suddenly become our allies. We brought all those guys over here during Operation Paperclip. Of course, Henry Ford was a huge supporter of Hitler. Huge supporter.
Oh, yeah.
One of Adolf Hitler's most famous speeches was given in a Chevrolet plant. I mean, I don't know. The Bush family financed him. So you wonder, as a conspiracy theorist, you wonder who really won that war.
I think my biggest conspiracy that came out of all of, I guess you could say everything of World War II was the one that got so buried of Hitler trying to reanimate dead bodies. They dubbed him, I don't remember his real name, but they dubbed him Dr. Satan of the Nazi camp. And like some of the experiments that they were doing on like unfortunate people that passed during the time. Like they were literally, like it was almost like a Frankenstein movie from some of the things that I've read and some of the things that people in my family have told me. Like I think that's probably out of all of the conspiracy theories from that time. I think that one's the most. And like apparently they were actually able to bring people back.
Like
they were
zombies.
Like zombified. So like it kind of makes me think, what technology do we have now that we can just go and reanimate a corpse? I mean, if they were doing it in World War II.
Why? I'll tell you something that happened to me a while back, and everybody thinks it's a joke, and I don't know if it's a joke or not. But my job, my business is delivering stuff, right? I'm in transport. And I was coming back across the desert, right, of Arizona or New Mexico. I can't remember, man. It's the middle of the night. I was off duty, so I was driving just as hard as I could to get back home, right? All the way to Kentucky from out yonder. Well, I'm going across through there, and it's like midnight, right? And this vehicle this big, huge vehicle. Now I'm in a big 2500 jacked up truck, a big 4-wheel drive Silverado. And I'm coming through there, and I'm moving on pretty good. Well, something comes up, and if you know semis, you can't really distinguish a semi unless you see its the trailer lights or what, or the marker lights. You can't really tell it from a car because their headlights are so low to the ground, right? Whatever this thing was, the lights were shining right through my back glass. And this thing come up on me so fast, it was like crazy. When it come around me, it had flashing lights on it. And it said zombie apocalypse something team on it. Now, I'm sure it was probably there's probably some, fanboy out there, going to some kind of Comic Con or something. I don't know. But this thing was a military style truck, the big one, like the big armored military carrier with the 6 wheels and everything. It was a military style truck. That thing looked like it'd take a nuclear bomb. I mean, it was big. Nuclear, no, it said zombie apocalypse response team is what it had on it. And it had big yellow flashing lights. And that sucker was hauling butt. I was running, the speed limit's out there like 75, 80 miles an hour. I was running the speed limit, and this thing went around me like I wasn't nothing. And the roads are flat. The roads are flat. Sorry. I'm sorry, sir. The roads are flat. You can see for miles. And this thing come up on me out of nowhere. And it passed me like it was,
Oh, yeah. I believe it. I was, it's funny, like I said, like it's funny you bring that stuff up. I was scrolling through TikTok, not yesterday, I think it was the day before. And I had, on my For You page, I had come across a couple different videos of things just like that. People recording them and putting them on TikTok and stuff, like zombie response team, United States government, zombie response team, zombie infiltration team. Like they're on TikTok, and I think they're on YouTube. Like, you just gotta find them. But like I don't think you're joking 100% at all. Like I've seen too much stuff to just sit back and be like, all right, well, it's either possible or it's not possible, but there's too much evidence to link to a huge possibility of that. Well, at this point, it wouldn't surprise me, honestly.
It definitely had this symbol. If you look up the zombie response team symbol, zombie outbreak response team, that's what it said. Zombie outbreak response team. And it had the almost like a nuclear sign to it, like a military type sign. It's not the one sprayed in blood or nothing like that, nothing goofy. It looks like an actual military or government official symbol. That's the one that vehicle had on it, on the side, and it was huge. It was huge.
And if you look on, like, some of them, obviously, they kind of look fake because, like, they have the fake blood and stuff smeared on them, like on the videos and stuff that I've seen. But, like, some of them there's no way that normal people should be able to get this type of class military vehicle to be able to do anything like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It had to be a multimillionaire to be able to afford this vehicle. This looks exactly like a troop carrier. Exactly like, and now I know they sell some of these on these some of these government auctions. You can buy them. I used to go on those government auctions and look, but not like this. Not with the you could get the kind that had like the canopy cab and all that stuff. Not this big super armored whatever this thing was. And this was big. I mean, this was big. It was dark, so I couldn't tell that it had guns on it. I could flashing lights. I had my fog lights and everything on my truck going down the road because of deer and cattle. Cattle and horses run wide open out there. Believe it or not, it's like open plains. Uh, so I had my fog lights on so I could see the sides of the road clearly, so I didn't smack an elk or a buffalo or God knows what out there. You know what I mean? But
Oh yeah, absolutely.
but when this thing come by me, I mean, it passed me slow enough that I could read the side of it. It was marked up with red and I mean, it wasn't like camoed out. It was marked up like a kind of like an ambulance, kind of, you know. And it was
Yeah.
definitely a troop carrier of some sort, you know. So, what millionaire is running around in the middle of the night out there in the middle of the desert with a zombie apocalypse response team vehicle? I mean, it's possible they could have had one.
There's no reason for it.
There's no there's no logical reason for it unless it's some billionaire, moving supplies and troops to his bunker somewhere. I mean that'd be it. I mean, so I don't know. They had all the guys they claimed was eating bath salts that were turning into zombies and attacking
I
people in
remember
Florida.
that.
You remember that? Yeah. You know. So Preston,
I
go ahead. I'm sorry.
was gonna say I remember the bath salt zombie pandemic.
How do we know that's what they were really doing? How do we know they weren't really animating people and bringing them back to life and just turn them loose to see the public's reaction? We don't know what they were really doing.
That's the scary part. Like we really don't know. Like, I mean, they're trying now, I guess, in the Senate and the House to try to release UAP information, UFO information, like, but they're doing it so slowly. But then we have Mexico coming out with like those bodies and stuff. So like, that's one thing that we can sit here and like we can wonder on and find a definite proof for it. And then stuff like with the zombie response team, like if you look on a government website, I'm sure you won't find anything on it, but if you dig deep enough, you'll find it.
FEMA had the zombie apocalypse attack plan, scenario, survival plan, or whatever. I mean, I mean that's official documentation. Um,
Oh yeah, I mean if that doesn't rattle your bones to a certain degree, then who knows what.
Mel Blanc's kid put out a zombie apocalypse escape book or survival book or whatever. You remember that? The guy who voiced Bugs Bunny, his boy. Yeah, he put out a book several years ago. And it was actually pretty good. I mean, like you tie up a chicken, when you sit in a tree and the zombies hear the chicken squawking and you sit up there in that tree and you pick them off. I mean, it was interesting things like that. I didn't buy the book, but I was really bad back in those days because I didn't have a whole lot of money. I would go to bookstores and find an interesting book and just walk around in there and read it, while I was in there. And a lot of times I would do that. Like when I was in college, I would walk around and I'd go to a bookstore and I'd pick up a book and in between classes, and I would read that book, and then the next day I'd kind of remember where I was at and go back and read it again because I didn't have the money to pay for it. So, I just went in there and read it. But now I try to buy a book now when I can, even if I don't read it. I have a terrible book collection that I'll probably never read half the books in my book collection.
Oh wow!
But
I'm a father of four, so I don't get to read as much as I used to. But...
Wow, 4 children. That's amazing, man. I have 3 sons.
Yeah, I got. Yeah. That's awesome. I got 2 boys, 2 girls. So
That's awesome, man. That's. Are they still little? Are they young? Not I'm not trying to pry on your business, but it's such a blessing when
no,
they're yeah.
I have my oldest is 13, and then I have a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old, and then an 8-year-old. So
At that age, man, blink. I'm serious. Keep your eyes on them and enjoy the time out of even the bad times. And I know it's hard to say. It's hard to do and it's easy to say, but you blink and they're grown. You blink at that
oh, I
age and
know.
they're grown. My boys are all grown. I have played a part between all my divorces. Unfortunately, I have played a part in raising 10 kids. I have been I have been blessed with being a part of 10 kids' lives with all my divorces. And you know, I love all those kids. I've dated recently a lot of single moms, and I get really attached to the kids because I love big families. Man, there's just nothing like a family. I know it's hard. I know it's the financial struggles are hard. I know it's hard all the way around. The different uh, attitudes and demeanor of children and uh, character of children. I know each is different, and I understand that it's hard, but there is absolutely nothing better than that. I look at my great grandparents and I realize why they had 13, 15 kids. It wasn't
Oh yeah.
because there was no birth control. It was just, and they needed. I'm sure they needed workers on the farm, in the garden and stuff, but too, but there's just a blessing about a bunch of kids in a family. There really is that you just it's special, man. Uh, I'm I'm happy for you, and I wish the very, very, very best for you and your family. That's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, when did you become a conspiracy theorist?
Probably when I was about 15.
See, you got
And
into it way earlier than me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, I started at 15 because like I always had a thing for like aliens. I guess you could say. I guess you could blame the alien movies, but I've always kind of like believed that we're not alone. Um, so I guess like I kind of started digging around that age, and then that kind of led. And this is going to sound crazy, but it kind of spiraled off into like a serial killer type thing. But in a way, it was more of like what caused these people to want to do this, and then that led to like the Christianity side and the demonic possession side, the all that type of stuff, and then that just kind of continued.
My ex my ex girlfriend, the last serious girlfriend I had, she had a fascination, I guess, with bad boys or something. Because I would come in, we lived together for a few months, and I would come home and she would be like watching some kind of serial killer, documentary on Netflix or something. I'd be like, you know what? I'm getting afraid to sleep next to you, chick. Because it's just crazy.
I used to make the joke with my ex. I was like, I was doing the serial killer thing before the serial killer stuff became cool on Netflix, and she just looked at me like, "What? I did my research."
Yeah, I sleep with one eye open. You know,
Yeah. That's literally how it is, man. Like when you hear stuff like that, like especially from somebody like obviously like you don't know that person very well, or you know them just a little bit, but like you see that kind of stuff, like it kind of makes your head turn a little bit. Like, is this person going to kill me in my sleep or what? Like, what's going on here?
yeah, because you wonder, what are they trying to learn here? What are they up to? Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I think it was more for me because like when I was in high school, like I wanted to do like psychology. So like that was kind of like a step for me. Like let me take a step in and see what they try to figure out like what made these people tick, what made them go on these sprees, and then again, like I said, that led down to the demonic possession side, the spiritual side, and all that.
right. Yeah, I totally.
But in a way, it did help me because like I was brought up in a you must go to church type family.
Right.
So like it was forced upon me, so I didn't really believe. But once I started kind of going down that path and like learning all this stuff, like it terrified me enough to where like, all right, I believe. I absolutely believe. I don't want any of this stuff happening to me or my family.
Exactly.
But I mean, like nowadays, it's just one of those things. I guess it's everywhere. I mean, what Netflix just did that Jeffrey Dahmer thing.
Yeah, yeah. I think me and her was still together when that thing come out. But yeah, that is some
I'll give
sick stuff.
that actor Evan Peterson, I think is his name, the guy who played Dahmer. He is a phenomenal actor. He plays those roles. Like I don't know if you've ever watched American Horror Story or not, but like he plays those roles so well, it's creepy.
I am not a horror fan. I do not watch anything horror. I am a comedy and action kind of guy. Now my kids like my boys. They like horror movies. They get that from their mom. But I am not a horror movie person. I am a comedy and action guy any day of the week. But that's about
That's how my cousin is.
yeah. I'm not.
See, I would. Go ahead.
Go ahead, sir.
I was gonna say like I got tortured. I guess you could say as a kid because my first horror movie at 5 was The Exorcist.
Wow.
My family's kind of like always been into like horror and stuff. Like I guess it's the fact that like you can get terrified without this stuff actually happening to you.
Right.
But like I get it. It's an adrenaline rush. Like I love horror movies myself. Like I'm a huge Friday the 13th fan. But like there's certain ones that like The Exorcist, for example. You should never show a 5-year-old The Exorcist.
Oh, I don't even watch The Exorcist. I'm 48 years old because I know that stuff's real and I do not want to mess with it. But the scariest movie I ever seen as a kid was, now you're going to laugh at me over this because it's kind of funny, but the scariest movie I seen was Raiders of the Lost Ark as a kid.
Oh wow, that's a good one though.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a great movie, but the very end, man, where they open the Ark of the Covenant and all that crazy stuff happens, their eyeballs melt out of their head and everything else. That's like the scariest thing I ever seen as a kid. And
that would be traumatizing.
but it's a great movie. I just watched the last one, man. I could not keep. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I could not. It could not keep my interest at all.
Which one was it?
The Dial of Destiny. I just played it on Amazon Prime the other night, and I could not stay interested in it at all. I went through the whole movie, and I can't tell you 2 things about it. It did not keep me at all interested.
That's what a lot of people are saying nowadays. Like I have a buddy, like he's a big movie aficionado, and I game with him. So I talk to him like pretty much every day. But when we talk about like a lot of like the movies and stuff, and it's like we're never going to find anything nowadays that will ever compare to like the early 80s, early 90s movies. Because those were raw. Those seemed real.
Yeah, the explosions were real. It was real fire, real bombs. Even TV.
Yeah, there wasn't CGI.
No, even TV, A-Team, man, they was blowing up stuff. It wasn't until the later years they started using remotes.
I never got lucky enough to watch A-Team on TV, sadly, but I have watched a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, like the Dukes of Hazzard, they even jumped real cars up until the last couple of seasons where they couldn't find chargers no more to replace. So then they started using the remote control chargers, the toy cars. But, they actually used real stuff back in the day. Now, they did have the scenes where they, looked like they were driving, the car was shaking or whatever, and they weren't really driving. You could always tell those. But, for the most part, you actually seen some real life chases there, for what it was worth, My trip down the conspiracy theory journey or loophole, rabbit hole, whatever you call it, started on about 10 years after 9/11.
I can see that.
I had my dad and I seen a UFO actually when I was a kid. And I had paranormal experiences throughout my life, and my family had too. But the conspiracy thing didn't happen until 9/11. And it was about 10 years after 9/11. And I believed wholeheartedly 9/11. I believed it wholeheartedly. And I was about to join. I was about to try to join and get in and go fight. I had wanted to join when I was a teenager, and I got ran over by a tractor and uh, crushed my pelvic bone in 3 days, and I had to learn to like walk again and all that kind of stuff. Very
Oh
slowly
wow.
over time. Yeah, but when 9/11 happened, I was close to 30 years old. I was probably 26, 27 years old, and I was in the best shape of my entire life. And I was ready. I was so mad. I was ready to go fight. But I had kid to take care of and everything else. My family talked me out of it, blah, blah, blah. Tillman got killed, and I'm thinking, well, if they're letting Tillman get killed, they're going to let me get killed. So,
Oh yeah.
so I reconsidered, especially with my kid and everything else. And then I had the twins in 2003. So I had them to take care of, and I got full custody of them. So I was, I had to stay with them. Uh,
Right.
but after that, I fully believed it. Man, I hated the Middle East. I hated that religion, and
I
I,
think a lot around like at least the first 15 years, a lot of people did.
right, right. And I have a lot of listeners right now in Saudi Arabia, so I don't want to offend nobody, and not be,
Absolutely.
you know, but I was so against anybody. I mean, Saudi Arabia is the third highest listener for my podcast, and I'm so thankful for them. Uh, but I believed all that stuff so much. That these guys were responsible for all that stuff. But then after I got to looking at it, there was absolutely no way those planes brought down those buildings, and nothing hit Building 7. It's just that's what brought me down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole. And it started from there to remembering what my great grandpa said about the moon landing, laughing about it. Because I went to his house and I'm like, he said, I said, Papa, I said, you remember? I said, I watched the last moon landing today because he lived right down the gravel road from me. I said, I watched the last moon landing today. And he laughed. He said, you really think people walking on that moon all the way up there? He said, people will believe anything. He said, listen, son. He said, when I was a kid, he said they built a boat that was so big and bad that they said God himself couldn't sink it. And he said on the first journey, he said it went to the bottom. you know, so that made, and I still remembered what he said. He didn't believe none of that stuff that the government said. And I have got, you know,
I think now trusting the government, especially with everything that people are starting to see, like, and obviously, like, I'm not a big conspiracy channel or anything like that, but there's so many out there that people are actually getting their information from with actual documented proof. It's hard for our governments to keep lying about these things. And you see it like every day with like the news conferences, the press conference, like all this stuff. Like, who would have thought 50 years ago with Area 51 that we would have like an actual hearing on UFOs?
no one would have ever thought that. No one in 1,000 years.
Never in my 33 years of living did I ever think, oh, well, they'll come out and tell it. No, it's crazy.
No,
but I think the more and more people are starting to share and the more documents that keep getting released, the more and more that they're going to have to start owning up to these things.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think so too. I think they're going to have to. I think things are going to come out so much that they're going to have to take a stance one way or the other in order to keep the people in check. You know, because some of this stuff, when people actually realize, you know, that they're basically being brown shirted like the Nazis, they're going to come unglued. I mean, they really are.
Oh,
You know, and we ain't seen nothing to some of these people that's like whacked plumb out of their heads. You know, come plumb unglued. You know, I mean, some of these. I mean, I was watching a video today. I think I shared it. Of the poor lady, you know, going plumb off on that Uber driver in the backseat of the car. We have these people going off on, you know, figuring out, man, they've been duped their entire life. They're going to make some noise, you know. They're really going to call some people out. But, uh, you know, I was like you in a way. Uh, Yeah, I was a big Star Trek fan, a big Star. I mean, I'm a '70s and '80s kid. You know, I'm a Star Wars guy. I really, really, you know, when I heard about 15 years ago, when I heard all this flat Earth crap come out, and I'm not saying it's crap now, but when I heard all of it come out, I thought, man, that's the silliest stuff ever was. I've been to college. I studied the heliocentric model. I know what's going on. And then I started looking at their facts, and I thought, I come away from trying to debunk the flat Earth conspiracy to not knowing what the heck we're living on. To be honest with you, I have no freaking idea what we're living on. I just know it's a big old something. Because you know we've been lied to so much, we don't know what to believe. You know, we've been lied to so much,
yeah.
we don't know what to believe. You know, and if anybody on Earth, I mean, I watched Space Camp like I don't know when my when I was young, my parents would rent like movies and would set up like 6 or 7 VCRs, and they'd go like once every once in a while and like rent like 100 movies, and they would tape them all, and then they would sit up for like 2 or 3 days taping all those movies because we didn't have TV when I was a kid, but we had VCR. You know, we had VHS, VCR. So they would go rent a whole bunch of movies, and then we would have those to watch. You know, forever. You know, and they videoed and recorded a movie called Space Camp.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever seen that or not, but
I haven't, no.
it had Heather Thomas in it, man, or whatever her name is, Leah Thomas, Leah Tom, the girl that played Marty's mother on Back to the Future. Who was that girl? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I think you're right. I can't remember her name, but
Leah Thomas. I don't know, man, but she was a cutie. And I had the hugest crush on that chick, man. And I watched that Space Camp movie every day for like an entire summer. And there was absolutely no one on this earth that wanted Star Wars and Star Trek and the moon story and the moon landing and all that stuff to be truer than me. I was the biggest NASA geek that ever walked the face of the earth. I loved that stuff. But after 9/11, and then I got to looking at and trying to debunk the flat earthers, I could not do it. I couldn't do it. I could not find not a single picture of Earth taken from the moon that wasn't CGI. I could not find a single picture of Earth taken from a satellite that wasn't CGI. I couldn't find a single satellite picture that wasn't a CGI. And that really, you know, I'm not saying the Earth's not round. I'm not saying the Earth's not flat. I don't know what we live on. That's all I'm saying. And from the evidence, I have no idea. Go.
I can't definitively say whether the Earth is flat, whether it's round. For me, there's not enough proof on that yet, but I do firmly believe that we are surrounded by a wall of ice, and I believe that the Earth has a lot more ground to be discovered, and nobody wants to do it. I mean, there's no reason we should have an Antarctica treaty with every nation in the world to not allow really anybody to go past a certain point in Antarctica.
I sold a car to a guy who claimed to have flown over both poles. He was like 70 something, 80 something years old. He's an Air Force guy. He was stationed in Antarctica for 7 8 months, however long their duration is there. He told me exactly, but I do not recall. He said it was so cold there that he would about froze to death even in the summertime, and everybody there was running around in short sleeves. And they made him wait 2 weeks to adjust to the cold there because it was a different type of cold. He told me a lot of stuff about that while I was getting his. I sold him a. This guy was nearly 7 foot tall, and his wife was 4'7", if that. And they bought a Mazda Miata, a brand new one off of me, convertible. That guy could barely fit in that car, man. He could barely. I had to help him in and out of it, and he still wanted that car. But this was the most interesting guy I ever met in my life. And I need to look up his name out of my book of people I sold cars to and write him a letter, but just to see if he's still around or not. Because I mean, he may not even be alive now, but he's the only guy I know that was in the Air Force that flew over both poles and talked about it. And that there makes me think that maybe the Earth is round, but I don't know. You know, I don't. You know, they come out last year and said that they found 7,000 new islands around Japan.
Yeah, there was a big thing. It was like 700. Japan had found and listed like 700 new islands.
Yeah. Was it 700 or 7,000? I can't remember. It might be 700. I could be wrong.
One of the two.
Yeah, it might be 700 islands. But how is that even possible? How is that in 2023 we've discovered everything in the world. We got satellites supposedly everywhere, and we're discovering 700 new islands? How is that even possible? You see what I'm saying?
That's what makes me think that there's so much land to be explored. And I think the governments of the world that we currently know as the world, that's why they have that treaty, because they know what's behind that wall. They just don't want to tell us. I don't know if you've ever looked at a map from like the 1500s or the 1600s. Like there is like, from where we are on that map, there is a ring of ice around it. And then like there's all these different spots. Like there's a Mars, there's Garden of Eden, there's Ragnarok, there's everything you can think of that we've been given. Like even in like, for example, like Thor.
Yes. Yes.
Like they're all on this map.
And the only thing we see.
Personally makes no sense to me, but that's why I like diving into it, to find out what I can find out.
And all the thing that we see is what's on the UN map.
Yep.
Yeah. Have you done a Google? Do you have Google Home?
No, I have Alexa.
Yeah, a lot of my aunt and uncle, they have Alexa too. They're from Ohio. A lot of people have Alexa. I do have Google Home though, and if you ask Google Home what the longest river in North America in the United States is, it tells you the Amazon. Now, isn't that weird?
Yeah, I believe it.
It's weird.
And that's just like, I don't know. Have you ever seen like any of the Alexa stuff? Like people ask her like, Alexa, like, when's the world going to end, or like when's World War III going to start, or like all this kind of stuff, and they give an answer. But like apparently, from what I understand, like with certain apps for like Google Home and Amazon Alexa, like you can go in and program them to say things to your questions. How true that is, I don't know. I'm not an IT person.
I've heard that you can with Alexa, but you cannot with Google Home. Google Home does learn you. It does learn.
Okay.
It does learn you though. Like a while back, uh, I asked it what I was just I was just really down. I was having a bad day, and I just walked in, and I guess this is about the time my girlfriend and I broke up, and I just walked in and I asked Google. I said, "Okay, Google, what's the meaning of it all?" Of course I said, "Hey Google" or whatever. I said, "What's the meaning of it all?" And it gave me a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. You know, it gave me have you ever seen that movie, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I have. It was years ago when I watched it, but I have watched it.
Yeah, it gave me a reference to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, like "Be good to everyone," or always know where your towel is, or something. He gave me a reference to that, and then it also gave me a reference to Bill and Ted's Excellent Journey. Be excellent to one another.
That's a
but yeah. But it's Google Home will learn you and learn what you like, but as far as being able to go in there and program it what to say, it does not. Now I can go. I got myself in huge trouble one night, man. You'll find this hilarious. Me and my girlfriend had laid down, and I had forgotten I hadn't changed it on my phone. But like when I laid down at night, I would say, "Okay, could go night," or whatever, and it would run over my activities for the next day. It would give me the weather, stuff like that, and then it would send a text to my ex-wife telling her I loved her.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! You would not believe the crap I got into over that one, man. It was terrible. Oh yeah, it was bad. Yeah, she jumped up.
Oh, wow, man, that's something.
She jumped up, and oh my gosh, she was mad. She was so mad because I hadn't changed it on my phone. I hadn't changed it on my phone. I changed it. I changed it on the other devices inside the house, but I was staying at her house then, and I didn't. I hadn't changed it yet, so I got in so much trouble over that, man. It was crazy.
That's crazy.
I was hoping Connor would be able to join us by now, but he's not been able to join us. I want to get into your Hatman experience before you go, because Hatman. Connor had a Hatman experience here in the house, and I wish that he was on here to talk about it with you. And I remember it plainly. I will go over his so you kind of know what I'm talking about if you haven't listened to any of the podcast. For weeks, he was talking about that when he was about 13, 14 years old. He was struggling with his religious beliefs or whatever. He would come to me and my ex-wife, and he'd be like, "My closet's when I go to bed, my closet door is shut and the light's off. When I wake up, my closet door is open and the light is on." He said it's doing it all the time. And we just kind of shrugged it off and thought it was his twin brother bothering him. Because they're both practical jokers, right?
Yeah.
Well, then he started talking about something in his closet peeping out at him. Okay?
Okay.
And then he proceeds to tell me a while back on a podcast that something like 7 foot tall, that was so tall it had to dunk down, wearing a top hat and an old light coat. He described Hatman perfectly to a T. Come out of his closet and walked over to his bed and said he sat and looked at it, and it sat down there on his bed and looked at him, and he couldn't breathe. It sat down on his legs. He felt the pressure of it on his legs, and said he was paralyzed. He could not move, and said he just laid there and cried. And have you seen our podcast on YouTube?
I have not. No, not yet.
Okay.
I was actually going through earlier.
Well, if you find our podcast on YouTube, look at the last the last thumbnail for the last podcast, it has the twins on there. They're like bodybuilders, okay?
Okay.
They look like bodybuilders. They're military guys. These kids were doing MMA fights in the backyard at 14. These are tough little dudes, okay? And he said that
Right.
scared him to death. This thing is he said this thing is 7 foot tall. It had to dunk down to walk out of his closet door and sit down on the bed, sit down on top of his legs and pinned him to the bed. And he thought it was going to kill him, but it didn't.
Oh,
It
wow.
just kind of looked at him and then vanished or whatever, you know. But that was the last time he seen it. And you had an experience.
That kind of sounds to me personally like almost like I don't want to say necessarily like a demonic entity, but I think it could very well be a demonic entity because it doesn't sound very residual. The only thing residual that would sound to me would be the door opening and light turning on by morning. But if it's coming and it's actually sitting down on you and make you go through what your top leading scientists would say would be sleep paralysis. But I've had sleep paralysis, and it doesn't make it feel like someone's literally sitting on your legs.
Right. Sleep paralysis is always associated with Hatman sightings. Did you know that?
Yeah.
There's a correlation. Not always, but there is a correlation of Hatman sightings with sleep paralysis. Anytime a Hatman has been sighted, there's been sleep paralysis. But not every time there's sleep paralysis has there been a Hatman sighting.
Right. See, that kind of... So, like, I have a little story of something like that, I guess you could say. We lived in Kutztown, Pennsylvania, this little college town. And we lived the house had to have been from the early 1900s. And me and my brother, we slept up in the attic. And I think I told you when we were talking in the messages, I had one of those vinyl like Slipknot flags. And every night around 12:30, if I was asleep, that flag would come off the wall and wrap itself around my face. But there would be multiple nights where me and my brother, we would look at the top of the steps would be a man in like an old 1900s suit, black suit with a black top hat. And he would just sit there and watch us. And if we got up to go and try to like run at him thinking it was an intruder in the house, he would run downstairs and disappear.
How tall was he?
God, he had to have been at least 6'2", 6'3". If I remember correctly, yeah, about 6'2", 6'3".
So that roughly the same size.
Roughly, yeah. I actually got chills thinking about it. Like, and you couldn't see his face.
That's what he said. You could not see his face. You could see his clothes. He wore a long coat with an upright collar and a top hat.
Yeah. And it happened for like a year and a half straight too, though. Like every morning, my brother would wake me up. Oh, your flag was over your face again. Like, what?
Was you all in the same room?
Yeah, me and him slept in the same room. Like, we had an attic room. Like, the first time I saw it, he wasn't there. And then a few days later, I had gotten home from work, and he had said, he was like, Preston, did you see a man in a top hat here last night? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, there was a man standing at the top of our stairs in a long black shirt or a long black jacket, like an old school suit and tie, and a black hat on his head.
That's the way he described it too. But he said you couldn't actually see anything but black. It was outlined, but you could see the definition of it.
Yeah, we saw like we could see like it was like I said, old school suit and tie. Like it almost looked like God, I'm trying to think of a way to describe the suit and everything. Like it was old, but it looked new.
Right. He talked like the suit, the shirt was frilly, like frilly. The shirt was frilly, kind of poofy, sticking out.
That's literally how this one was.
Now, this is my theory. This does not mean this is what this is, but Hatman's been seen everywhere, and a lot of times it's by children mainly. There have been a few instances where an adult has seen Hatman, but they're very rare. This is my theory. Do you know what else dresses like that?
Lucifer.
A what?
Lucifer.
Lucifer? Yeah, a lot of people say Lucifer, but a high wizard dresses like that.
Yes, that too.
A high wizard.
You're right.
A high wizard in the satanic community dresses like that, and they're over covens or have many covens under them. And how do we know that they're not astro projecting into kids' rooms? How do we know we're not seeing a visible astral projection of a high wizard? That's my theory. Because
that's a pretty good theory, honestly.
I mean, I'm not saying that's what it is. I don't know what Hatman is. It might be an actual shadow person that's like the king leader or whatever, or it might be Lucifer himself. Connor thought it was Lucifer. Connor thought it was Satan. Connor really thought it was Satan too, just like you. So that's my theory. I don't want to think that the devil showed up in my kid's bedroom. You know what I mean?
Well, no, absolutely not. But like, if you look at people who have, said that they have encountered Satan himself, and he's always in a dressed up suit from periods ago. I want to believe, like, yeah, it definitely could be astral projection. I would not doubt it, because who to say that we know everything that people like that can do? But at the same time, like, if multiple people are reporting the same things, then there's got to be something going on there. There's got to be some kind of explanation. It's just, why is this amount of people seeing the exact same figure, appear in their bedrooms or something like that, or trying to induce harm, or like in your son's case, like just basically going into a type of sleep paralysis or anything like that, not being able to move. Like, to me, like, if it's an astral projection, I don't see how that could work. But again, I'm not that deep into that type of thing yet. But I don't know. But it's definitely a good theory.
I talked to a Pentecostal preacher one time who claimed that he was that he had dealt with someone who was into Satanism, and that guy claimed that he could astro project, and claimed that he came to his house and jiggled dishes and told him about it. And he was like, yeah, the dishes did jiggle, and was basically threatening him and his wife if he didn't leave him alone, basically. I don't know. That's his. I don't know that story is true. I just know that that's what he's told me. So if that is possible for one person to astro project and go in and actually move physical objects, how do we know that a high wizard can't do the same thing? It make you, take your flag down off the wall and cover you with it, or sit down and Connor actually feel the pressure from him sitting on his legs on the bed. I mean, we don't know. Like you said, we don't. It's a good question. We don't know. Is it an actual physical entity? Is it I never heard that about Satan. This same preacher told me that he had met Satan and said he was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen in his life. He said he was a guy, but he said he was the prettiest guy I ever seen. but I don't know. I don't know if that guy was telling me the truth. He's gone now. I'm not going to question his integrity. He he told me I believe what he said. I take it you know for what he said. But he didn't mention that he was dressed in old clothes. I don't think I asked him, to be honest with you. But so you have accounts of people saying that Satan dresses in old timey type clothes.
What was that?
I said you have people has told you that when that has seen Satan, that has that he dresses in old timey clothes.
I've had a couple people who swear that they've seen him, but it's also been like people that were a lot older, so to speak. I guess you could say like it's. I to me personally, it's one of those things like I can't believe it until I actually see it.
Right.
Like for something like that, like it obviously I don't want to see Satan, but
Yeah.
No,
No desire to.
But like I mean, that's the only way that I could be like, all right, whether people call me cuckoo or not, but to me, that's the only way I could 100% say like, this is my evidence, this is what I experienced, and you can believe me or not. And the sad thing is like, especially like in the paranormal world, right? Like we have all these paranormal shows like Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures. There's a bunch on YouTube that I watch. Like, how much of it is 100% accurate and how much of it is just a show?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. How much of it is for entertainment?
Yeah. Like, I don't know, like for Ghost Adventures, you ever watch that show at all?
I watch Taps or whatever it used to be. I watched that a lot.
Oh, Ghost Hunters.
Is that Ghost Hunters?
Yeah, Ghost Hunters. Ghost Adventures is like it's a 3-man crew, but like they're more. You can tell it's heavily edited.
Yeah.
Compared to like the old Ghost Hunters shows, to like where you actually went in with them. Like, I've always had more credibility with Ghost Hunters than I have ever had with Ghost Adventures. But like, I don't know, it's one of those things, like, until you actually go out and experience it, or there's actual legitimate 100% guaranteed proof, it's hard for people to kind of like dive in and believe it.
Did you ever do any ghost hunting?
Not really. I mean, I did like as a kid with like a little camera that I got from like a dollar store and went around with my buddies at their houses, but like never actually been on like an actual ghost hunt.
I used to. I had like a little team that went with me. I'm 48 years old. I've been around this stuff for a long time, but well, it seems like a long time. But we had a few really weird experiences, and there was one experience I'll tell you about real quick that made me quit going ghost hunting. I never went ghost hunting again after this. But we went one night to a graveyard and was taking pictures. We went to a graveyard one night, was taking some pictures, and took some video. And my battery died on my video camera, so I went back to the truck to get the video, to get the other camera, get the other battery for the video camera. Well, I'm out there getting the camera situated, getting it back to going. Everybody comes running out of the graveyard, and they're like, "Man, something was in there. Something was in there," and it stood up and ran away from us. They thought it was a Bigfoot. Now, if you look at research, it might have been a dog man, because it says, research says that dog man hangs out in graveyards, not Bigfoot. Also, and then this was the next only thing that ever happened. Something followed me home, I think, or maybe something was there at my home waiting on me. But anyway, when I got home that night after ghost hunting, something jumped in the bed of my truck and started walking towards the front walking towards the cab. I flip on the back light and I look, and there's absolutely nothing in my bed, but I'm feeling the steps walk towards the front of the truck, towards the cab, the truck, and the bed. I fired that truck up. I done donuts in my front yard. And that was back in the days when Walmart was open 24 hours a day. So I went back to Walmart and I stayed there all night because whatever the heck that was, I was not dealing with. Because if I couldn't see it, I couldn't shoot it. And that's the way I looked at it. So I never went ghost hunting after that. I never messed with that stuff. Will I go look for Dogman or Bigfoot? Yeah, I'll go do that still, but I'm not messing with anything paranormal. I want to hear about it, talk about it, but I'm not going looking for it.
And see, like I can definitely say that attachment is real. So I'm pretty sure you had something probably at home for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen. I mean, obviously, I've had my own, case with attachment, like from the whole thing with the Weir Road stuff. But attachment and stuff like that. That's why one of the reasons I don't like going out and trying to do ghost hunting and stuff like that. I'm sure I could if I found the right people, but like I don't want to draw anything back home to me, especially with these little guys running around. You know what I mean?
100% know what you mean. Yeah. You don't want nothing like that coming home to you, to mess with those kids.
Not.
I've got a situation like that right now. My first ex-wife, my middle school sweetheart. We dated all the way through middle school off and on, all the way through high school off and on. Then we got married. She was probably the love of my life. But it didn't work out. You know how things go. But she grew up with a poltergeist in her house. And now my son, my oldest son, is raising his kids in that house. And I go over there the other night, and my grandson's like, Papa, there's a monster in this closet. Said, you come over here with me, right? So I go over there to the closet. And he's like, be careful, Papa. When I open this closet, there might be that monster in there. And I'm like, you listen here, buddy. I said, if there's a monster in that closet, Papa's pretty big. He's going to whip that monster. And, trying to give that kid reassurance, right? But I have been a nervous wreck since my grandsons are in that house. The first thing that happens when we walk in this bedroom is his nightlight is turned over. And he said, why's my nightlight turned over? He's got a dinosaur nightlight on his shelf, that illuminates the room. And he's like, my nightlight's turned over. Why is my nightlight turned over, Papa? Or Peepaw is what he calls me, Peepaw. And I said, I don't know, buddy. He goes over there and he sets his nightlight back up. He's like, well, that's weird. And this kid's like 5 years old, He's not knocking over his nightlight, And he's like, he's not making up that there might be a monster in his closet either. And he's going to have to imagination, I'm sure. But, so I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm praying. I'm like, man, I'm going to be so mad at whatever this thing is. I'm going to be so mad, because I had dealings with this thing when his mom was little, when his grandma was little.
Right.
When his grandma was little, I'm sorry. She called me crying one night because her parents weren't home and her radio was playing old rock and roll music, and she had unplugged it, turned it off, and took the batteries out of this jam box, and it was still blasting old rock and roll music at the loudest volume it could play. I go there, the radio's still playing, I check it, it's off, it's unplugged, no batteries in it, and I take it and I lock it up in the garage. It had the house had a built-in garage. I take it and put it in the closet out in the garage and leave it in there because it's blasting old rock and roll music, like on a station that don't even exist in their area at that time.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she would wake up with scratch marks on her back and everything else. And when the day after we were married, the day we were moving out, the very room that my grandson is in, a basketball fell off the shelf in that room and rolled outside the bedroom door and bounced and hit every single step on the way down. How possible is that? It dribbled all the way down every individual step, landed at the middle of the floor at the foyer, right in front of the door to exit the house or enter the house, in front of the staircase, and stood there and spun round and round and round. And when that happened, my sister and my ex-wife and me, we grabbed everything we could in that house that was hers, and we loaded in the vehicle, and we never looked back. I'm not joking you, but that,
I don't blame you.
yeah. So they had a house cat. The house cat was constantly showing up on the roof of the house. Like, this is a big 3-story house, and somehow or another, that cat was getting stranded up on the roof. Weird. No chimneys, no chimneys, no nothing like that for that cat to get out and get up on. No cat door, no nothing. They get looking for the cat, and the cat was on the roof. Yeah, that's creepy. She had my ex-girlfriend at the time would wake up with marks on her back, claw marks on her back.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
everything that I've seen and like research wise, like that's more of the demonic type haunting than a poltergeist.
yeah. I don't know what it is,
That,
but I don't.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, it's very scary. When I put that, I don't want this show to be about my experiences. I'm sorry, but when I put that radio back up in that closet in the garage, and I walked across the kitchen floor coming back into the house, it sounded like a load of lumber was destroyed down in the basement. I opened up the basement door and flip on the light, and all the lumber was stacked perfectly. I mean, there was some weird stuff happening in that house. She couldn't have friends over because the lights would flicker and TVs would go off and change channels, just do all kinds of crazy crap when she would have friends over. So, needless to say, yeah. But have you had any experiences like that, my friend?
What was that?
I said, have you had any experiences like that?
No, I didn't hear what you said.
I said, have you had any experiences like that? It's just crazy.
I've not had anything per se that intense. The most intense one would be when I was with my great grandmother's brother and the Weir Road one, but like nothing to that extreme. But I've had friends that's actually gone through it.
Or you're at liberty to share any of their tales?
I am not, because they're the ones that dealt with it firsthand, and I got what they were able to tell me, so to speak. But like not being there to be able to see it, like I don't want to, like I can't, really give up what they experienced and the fear they experienced in a way that they could do it. Like the closest one would be like when we got the attachment from Weir Road, when my buddy's baby was lifted out of his crib at 3 months old. Like,
so that didn't happen there, or was they in this? Did that happen on Weir Road, or did that happen? Where was
6
that?
years later.
6 years later, but was it on that road, or was it on a different road?
No, it was on a different road. It was none of us lived on that road. they actually tried to shut the road down because people kept disappearing on that road.
Really?
Yeah. If you look at, like, you can Google it, type it. If you Google Weir Road, Wehr, Trenton, Ohio, like, there's all kinds of stuff where you can just type in a Hatchet Man or Weir Road. But, like, yeah, that whole area around there is my old stomping ground, so to speak, my hometown.
Weir Road Hatchet Man. First thing that showed up. Put it over here on the camera.
What was that?
So it does. It shows up. The first thing that shows up is Hatchet Man. Hatchet Man of Weir Road.
Yeah. Like, if it's, let me see. I got my computer right in front of me. Give me a sec. Hatchet. Oh, if I could type, it'd be better. Trenton. Yeah, if you type, it's Todd Fowler was the guy's original name.
It was what?
Was the Todd Fowler was the guy that they dubbed the Hatchet Man.
Yeah.
Because he went on like a crazy killing spree with a hatchet. But yeah, like there's videos and stuff from down that way, and like there's pictures of the cemetery and stuff that's on the road. Like that whole area is like my old stomping ground.
There is a similar scenario happened when I was a kid. Now this is probably very early 80s, okay? There in Goshen at Hill Station. On Hill Station Road in Goshen. We were following the bus home. We had gotten there. It was like my parents had picked me up like at noon. I think it was on Thanksgiving. You know, like the Wednesday or Thursday, whenever the school gets out on Thanksgiving when you're a kid. Okay, we're following my aunt's school bus home in Goshen. And on the same street, like 3 or 4 houses down from my grandma's, a guy went mad. I don't know if his wife was cheating on him. I don't know what the deal was, but he went off the deep end and cut her up with an axe in the front yard there at Hill Station in Goshen. And we came up on that. The police was there. Her body was still laying out in the yard with a sheet over it, blood soaked. Right? He'd killed her with an axe. And they had him, you know. And their kids were getting off the school bus and seeing that. Those little kids were getting off the school bus and seeing their mom hacked to death with an axe in the front yard. And of course, we're little kids. We're trying to, I'm trying to see. And mom's like covering up our eyes. Oh my God, you can't see that. You know, freaking out. Terry, get out of here. Get out of here. You know, yelling at my dad, you know. And, you know, we were stuck behind a school bus. You can't move behind the school bus, you know. Stop sign. You go to jail for that quick. But yeah, those little kids got off. And I will never forget that. I'll never forget that day. It was terrible, terrible tragedy. Yeah, I don't know what happened or why, but you know that was in Goshen, not far from Trenton. So, you know that's
me and my dad, we've kind of made the joke like once you get out of Ohio, when you go back, it's like you're walking back into a place that's covered by a veil of paranormal and demonic activity. Like just Ohio in general is just a place that, for me at least, was not a very fun experience growing up.
So you don't live there now?
No, I'm currently in Pennsylvania. I've been living in Pennsylvania for like 7 years now.
Wow. Pennsylvania is, I've been through Pennsylvania quite a bit, a lot of pretty territory up there. Have you ever heard of Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society or whatever it is? Pennsylvania Bigfoot.
Yeah.
The Tony Merkel, the podcast host of the Confessionals. He started that group.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah, I love the Confessionals podcast. It's a great podcast. I'm actually supposed to go on it one of these days. I've not heard back from him, but I got the green light to go on it. So I'm looking forward to getting their, getting a recording date and getting to go back on that or getting to go on that show because it's like my favorite podcast.
Oh yeah, you'll have to let me know when you do go on so I can check it out.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to this one too, so you can listen to it. What podcast do you listen to? Use Spotify, Google? Which one do you listen to?
Pretty much everything.
Pretty much everything. Yeah. Anything. I'm probably pretty much Spotify or YouTube. I don't get into Apple or nothing like that. I mean, I'm on there, but I've never listened on Apple. But
no, I think I use mainly like YouTube because like I like to watch like a lot of like if I watch a podcast, like I like the people being there, they're like in person or like on like a Zoom call or whatever. But I also like I listen to Jim Cornette. I don't know if you know who that is from wrestling. I listen to his podcast on Spotify.
I've never heard of him. No. What's his podcast called?
He was a professional photographer for the old school NWA Wrestling Association, and he started doing stuff for WWE and WCW back in the day in the 80s and 70s, all the way up until I believe early 2000s.
Wow. I was never into wrestling. A lot of my friends were into wrestling. I was never into it. I liked Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage, and that was about the gist of it. You know what I mean? That was pretty much it for me. We didn't have TV when I was a kid. I was a farm kid, so we worked. We worked. That's what we did. We worked. We hunted. We fished. We went four wheeling. We rode dirt bikes. We rode bicycles. We worked, and a lot of times when everybody else, my friends would be watching, wrestling or something like that, I'd be out in the fields with my dad. We would be harvesting grain or something like that. I didn't have that experience.
Right. No. It's a lot of people grew up like that. Like especially from Ohio. Like if you've been in Ohio, it's a bunch of farmland. So like a lot of us were raised up doing that kind of stuff. Especially in like from my generation, like being born in the 90s, like I did a lot of stuff. Like my first technical job was working at Taco Bell at 14 under the counter.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, my cousin had worked there, and then he was friends with the owner because it was one of those that were franchised out.
Yeah.
So I went and talked to the owner, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll put you on the payroll." Never got on the payroll, but I got paid.
That's always the best part.
Right?
So, Preston, do you have anything you want to promote? Do you have like a business or anything like that you want to promote on here?
Not really. I mean, I just do the TikTok thing for fun. I'm trying to get to 1,000 followers. I think it's 1,000 to start going live because I kind of want to switch my content into like a little bit more storytelling. So like missing 411s, true crime, conspiracy, haunting, stuff like that. So like I've been trying to get people to send me links and stuff so I can, write stuff down and try to create some kind of script so it's not just a bunch of nonsense talk, I guess you could say.
Right. Do you share your stuff anywhere else other than just on TikTok?
YouTube. I actually have the whole recounting on my YouTube. It's the same as my TikTok.
Okay. And that is the Scribby Evil?
Yeah.
So is there do you have like a Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook or anything like that too to share stuff with?
Yeah, I have a Facebook. It's just under my name. It's Preston Scribner, SCRIB as in boy, NER. But like I really just post like my reels and stuff on there from TikTok, but I really don't really mess with Facebook that much.
Right.
Instagram, it's kind of the same thing. I just share my stuff on there, try to get it to grow. Right now, it's still kind of like a feeling out phase. Like I just hit 700 followers on TikTok today. I got 116 subscribers on YouTube. So it's been a very slow process.
You have way more TikTok followers than what I do. I don't have. I think I'm like under 600 still on TikTok. So
it's definitely hard to grow on TikTok, but at the same time, like if you post, so like for me, like I post anywhere between 3 to 6 times a day.
Wow, that's a whole lot of posting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of posting. I had close to 3,000 followers on 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 Twitter, and I got close to 3,000, like 20. I got close to 3,000, I think it is, on Facebook, but I'm nowhere near anything like that on uh, uh, on TikTok yet. So you're way ahead of me in that arena, and I'm not even to 100 on YouTube. YouTube is very new for me, so eventually maybe. And I think the stuff I talk about is against the algorithm, to be honest with you, because they don't really seem to favor conspiracy theories much. The Bigfoot thing they're okay with, the ghost thing they're okay with, but when you get into the talking about conspiracy theories and the government, they don't really like you much. They don't really help you out a whole lot.
I've noticed I did a video on oh god, what was it? The Manhattan Project.
Oh yeah.
I did a video on the Manhattan Project, and it got taken down from my TikTok and my YouTube.
Yeah, you got
like within 10 minutes of posting it.
I've had some stuff disappear too. What do you face from like your friends, your buddies, and your peers in your community for having a paranormal TikTok channel?
Yeah, my friends, they like it. They think it's cool. A lot of my friends don't really get to do that kind of stuff. They just kind of do their own thing, and like it's how it started for me. But like, my mom's not a big fan of it. I can tell you that now. She don't like it.
She don't like
it. My dad thinks it's funny.
You're right. Do they believe in the paranormal?
Oh yeah, heavily.
Yeah.
They've had their own experiences as well.
When I see my one and only UFO, I was with my dad. When I actually visibly seen my only ghost, what I think was a ghost, or a timestamp, or time, whatever you call it. You called it something. What was it you called it? Like a time. I can't remember what you called it earlier, but you called it something like where you see like a picture of time, and then it's like there and then it's gone. What'd you call that? A time something? I can't think of it.
Time loop?
Yeah, kind of like a time loop or something. But anyway, yeah, the only time I ever seen anything like that was with my dad. I never seen. I've had what's possibly a Bigfoot encounter at my home. I've had paranormal things happen, but as far as actually seeing a ghost, like when the radio turned on and we couldn't get it to turn off, there was absolutely no ghost around. I didn't see no ghost. I heard things, heard the music blasting, heard the lumber fall in the basement, but never seen any physical entity or anything like that. The only time I actually ever seen anything that might have been a ghost was a car.
I've seen. So, like I had mentioned, like I think I'm somewhat clairvoyant because of my great grandmother. Like I've seen spirits that others can't see. I've spoken to spirits that other people haven't. I think personally, spirits will definitely present themselves if given the right opportunity. But what I've experienced myself, they're not just going to come out and do.
Right.
So, I mean, if you get the opportunity to actually see like an actual spirit or speak with an actual spirit, like whether it be through like a spirit box or, a Ouija board, which I absolutely attest to because that's a whole other level of portal. Until you actually see it, it's really hard to just be like, okay, well, but like once you do actually see it, it can either change your life forever or it can scare you away from everything in life.
Right. I lied to you. There was a pizza incident when we moved into a house on a Castle Street down here in Kentucky. Um, there, we were on the moving day. I had ordered pizza, and there was an extra kid at the table, and me and my ex girlfriend, the twins' uncle. Now, he's seen it too, but we couldn't figure out where it came from. We don't know if it was another neighborhood kid or if it was an actual ghost. We don't know what it was. But
Right.
there was X amount of kids there, and we had an extra kid grabbing pizza and running off down the hallway wearing a blue shirt. None of our kids was wearing a blue shirt. None of our kids was wearing red shorts and blue shirt. And none of our kids had long black hair. Like long 80s style black hair for a kid, you know. Uh, so we don't know who it was or what it was, or if it was a neighborhood kid that snuck in that was playing with the other kids. But anyway, we looked through the house and we couldn't find the kid no more. So, but some little kid came and got pizza in the kitchen and then run down the hallway. And me and him could not figure out who that kid was or where he belonged at. And we both went looking for him and could not find him. That might have been a ghost. I don't know. But, it is what it is.
It sounds to me like you encountered a ghost and you saw it firsthand with your own eyes.
It sounds like. Possibly. Me and him both. We both seen it because we sitting there counting the kids and we're like, hey, there's an extra kid here. Because the kids were playing in the backyard. We were trying to move in. We got all the kids in there to eat pizza. The adults were fixing to grab their pizza. I had ordered a bunch of pizza. Moving day. I was me and their mom, and everybody was moving in this house. So we were trying to count all the kids, to make sure we didn't lose a kid somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. That's how I am. When I go out with mine, I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4. Do I got them all?
You know what I'm talking about. So that's what we were doing. Pizza was on the table. We were trying to count, make sure we had all the kids, and then all of a sudden, hey, we got an extra kid here. And I look at him, he looks at me, and we count him again, and there's this little dark-haired, long-haired, 80s style haircut with a blue shirt and red shorts on kid at the table grabbing pizza. We never see his face. Always see his head. He's grabbing pizza, grabbing a paper plate, and runs down the hallway, and we can't find him. So,
yeah, I think so. Like, I think a lot of people have actually seen spirits, but they're not enough attuned to be like, okay, well, that was just my vision playing tricks on me or whatever. Like, you see something going to the side of your peripheral vision, like, who's to say that's not a spirit? Or like, you're walking down the hall and you see somebody and you turn around, that person's not there. Just like strange, what people would call normal everyday experiences to me, like you may have just saw your first entity or you may have seen something that not everybody's going to see all the time. So I think personally a lot of people have seen spirits and just didn't realize it.
Right. I think that's possible. That's very, very, very plausible, if not possible. And we, being logical and not wanting to think about things like that, we dismiss it automatically.
Oh,
Or
absolutely.
here, there's probably been 100 times that's probably happened to me, and I've just dismissed it. Like, oh, I'm just seeing things.
Well, I mean, like, you look at the way the world is, like, any era of the world, like, I personally believe we are surrounded by spirits, and I believe that there's a lot of spirits that just haven't passed on, and they're trying to communicate to be able to pass on, and most people don't pick up on it. They just kind of, shrug it off.
You're probably right. Probably right. I never really thought about it like that, but you're probably right.
That's just kind of how I look at it. Especially with my experiences. Like, I'm sure there's been plenty of times where I've seen somebody and talked to them, but there's really nobody there. And, like, people probably look at me like I'm a weirdo, but like that's just how it goes. I mean, there's plenty of videos on YouTube and TikTok, like where you see like employees talking to somebody that's not there. I mean, I've seen hundreds of them. So, I mean, it could be a natural phenomenon, or it could just be our minds playing tricks on us. But me personally, I believe we've all seen ghosts and just kind of brushed it off and didn't realize it.
So you're talking like the videos you see with the clerks, looks like they're talking to someone at the counter or whatever, or they're in a store and it looks like they're talking to someone and there's no one there. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Nothing's showing up on the count on the camera.
Yeah. There was a video I did a few months ago, and it was it's a welding group. Say that 10 times fast.
Yeah.
And one of the welders had switched to night shift, but he was friends with, I guess, with one of the guys from day shift who had passed away that morning.
Oh.
But in the video, you see the man talking to somebody who's like his best friend, but there's nobody there. And it's all on security camera footage. So that's one of those that's like it's easy to do, but it's also very painstakingly hard to do, to erase a complete human being out of footage.
I have a story about that with my sister. She worked at Walmart while she was in college, and after she had first gotten married, or probably right before she got married, and she was closing, right, because she was in the bottom of the totem pole. That was before Walmart stayed open all hours of the night. They closed at probably 10 or 11. I can't remember what, but about the same time they do now. And in those days, there was nobody in there on third shift. They done everything first and second. This was before the whole third shift and open all night, 24-hour days that you probably remember as a kid. But they were in there, and there was someone looking at socks after they had done their walkthrough, closed down the store, and locked it up. And she sees this guy or girl, I can't remember now which one it was because it's been too long, but she's seen this person standing there in the socks, looking at socks, and had a pair of socks in their hands, had a bag of socks in their hands, or cardboard clip of socks, whatever it was that socks come on at that time at Walmart. And
Right.
and she tells them, "Hey, you're not supposed to be here." And this person looks at him dead in the eye. She says, "You're not supposed to be here. The store's already closed. We've been locked down for some time. I've got to go get my manager to let you out. You cannot buy this. Stay right here. Do not move." She goes and gets her manager, right? They come back and there's nobody there. They look at the cameras. There's nobody there. Yeah.
Yeah, see, like that's one of that's one of those things. Like, there's no way you can fake that type of stuff, but it takes too much work to fake it. You know what I mean? Like, and if you have firsthand experience of actually seeing that camera footage, and then you post something like that online, especially today, people are just going to call it, oh, it's CGI, it's fake, it's this, that. When in reality, 98% of the time, this stuff actually happened to these people. And I've noticed since COVID, like a lot of paranormal experiences are really ramping up.
Really? I've not.
Yeah, like I've seen a lot more posts on it recently than I have in a long time.
Do you think it's because people have more free time now than what they used to, or do you think it's just paranormal activity's up?
I think it's the fact that the world shut down and, there wasn't the hustle bustle of everyday life. So more people were obviously stuck at home during the whole thing. And when you're stuck at home, what are you going to do? You're going to research. You're going to look up stuff. If you can't go to work or you got to work from home and you're sitting at a desk or you're sitting at home doing nothing because you can't work, you're going to go and you're going to look up this stuff, and then, or you can just even see it in your own home. Like, I've never realized that before. And then it just starts happening and happening and happening. And then you finally like, wait, we have all this technology today. Why don't we try to record this to try to be the first person to get 100% definitive paranormal evidence? But I mean, ever since then, like it's been blowing up huge. Like, ghost hunters across the world are literally going into places and capturing more evidence than they ever have before. And it's actually pretty crazy, to me, at least.
To be honest with you, I'm kind of leery of the whole ghost thing after my experience. So I don't really look at a whole lot of ghost footage. I do if it pops up on my feed, I'll look at it and I'll be like, holy crap. But I don't go looking for paranormal videos on YouTube or TikTok, either one for that matter. But I do still look for Bigfoot and Dogman. I did get a lot of pushback when I switched. See, my old podcast was about money and stuff like that, and blah blah blah. I have a background in finance, so before I went into transport, I had a background in finance. But it's the system's so rigged, it's so dirty. I don't like it. So I got completely away from that. I used to write for something called the Motley Fool. I used to be a syndicated blogger for them, and so years ago. But I don't like that sort of thing. So, but I was married to a banker, and she did not want me talking about anything that might paint her or the family in a negative light. So when I first started my podcast, I had to talk about financial things. I couldn't talk about cool stuff. So when I started the whole paranormal Bigfoot podcast, I got a little pushback from uh, from my peers and my community, for it. But you know what, man? We're all going to be dead one of these days. What does it matter what people think? What does it matter? I might die tomorrow. Does it matter what someone thinks about me? No, it don't. But I don't care anymore. But I still am leery of the whole paranormal thing. I think it's because I have experienced things that I can't explain, and you wonder. I'm 280 pounds. Okay, I'm 5'10", 280 pounds. I'm a big guy. I do have a little gut on me, but I'm a big, strong guy. There's not a whole lot I'm afraid of. So when I see something like that and think I can't whoop it, I can't beat this sucker, I can't fight this sucker because I can't see it or I can't shoot it with one of my guns, that kind of bothers me. You know what I mean? Yeah, Bigfoot, I'm pretty sure I may not be able to whoop Bigfoot, but I can stab him or bite him or pull his ears off or poke out an eye, or you know what I mean? But if a ghost, you ain't doing nothing to no ghost, you can't even see the sun. Yeah.
I mean, how are you going to fight or shoot what you can't see or can't touch?
Exactly. What am I going to do? So it kind of makes me a little leery of something like that. But
oh yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Preston, I don't know how long you got. This has been a great show. I really appreciate you coming on, and I want to welcome you back anytime that you want to. You just reach out to me and say, "Hey, I want to come on the podcast," and I'll let you on. Okay?
I
Delusion.
mean, that sounds great to me. I'm always down. I really don't have much time left because the kids are trying to get to sleep and everything, but I'm always down to come back on. I mean, to be honest with you, this is my first podcast I've ever been on. So,
Well, I really appreciate having you on. Your channel's awesome. It's called the Scribby Evil. It's got a lot of great content on there. Please check it out. I thought I had uh, comments turned on, but apparently I'm still under strike on YouTube, so I can't put comments on. But I'll put a link to your TikTok in the and if you'll send me a link to your YouTube, I'll put it in the description also of the videos and on the podcast. And I'll send you a link to this video to the podcast on Spotify or whatever you listen to it on. Just let me know and I'll send it to you. But Preston, great talking to you. Great conversation. Had a blast with you tonight, my friend.
absolutely, it was fun for inviting me on and being my first podcast that I've ever been on.
Hey, you're an awesome guest, man. I hope someone hears this and invites you on 100 more, or 1,000 more, a million more, whatever's out there. You know, you're great. You're a great guest. And I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir, so much, and you have a blessed evening.
Well, you do the same, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining in tonight. We watch. If you watch us on YouTube, watch us on the. Listen to us on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcast, anywhere that podcasts are seen or listened to or heard. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Appreciate you. Every country around the world. We're growing in the United States. We're growing in Germany. We're growing in Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much for listening. Even France popped up last week. Thank you all. God bless. Have a great evening.